So I wanted to talk about tablets in business. This video might not get as many views as I'm hoping it will, but you know, there you go. It's something that I would have thought a lot of business people will be worrying about, and especially admins and things like that, if you've got to support it. So I thought I'd run that through and sort of, you know, see, well, maybe touch through stuff like Android, Windows 8, which is coming out, and obviously the iPad and all the iPad, the iPad 3, which has just come out, which has just been announced yesterday. So, you know, the big decision you need to be thinking about when you purchase anything, obviously, is cost of it. And obviously that's the one big thing that managers worry about when you say, well, we're going to upgrade so and so, or we're going to roll out so and so, we're going to buy new laptops, we're going to buy new desktops. Obviously, management don't like you spending money, because obviously that then takes the money away from their own profits. But you know, so the cost is a big thing. But at the same time, with a lot of tablets, everything is pretty much the same price. Apple set the price point back when the iPad came out. It was, you know, really, really cheap price. It was something, it's still the same price today, in fact. With the new one, it's 400 quid. 399 for the brand new iPad 3. I mean, that's amazing. A brilliant price point to go from. If you remember back in the day, Moto Zoom, which was the Android version, was about £1,000. About $1,000, I think. So it's about £500 to £600, which is, you know, which is quite a lot actually. You know, compared to the iPad, which is an Apple device, and Apple devices aren't cheap generally. So in terms of price, I mean, I would say that, you know, you don't really matter. And to be honest, price and total cost of ownership, I would suggest the iPad's better, because it being an Apple device, hardware's amazing, customer support is amazing, and therefore, you know, obviously the Apple device would therefore be better. At the same time, you're going to consider ease of use and manageability in terms of admin and things like this. So ease of use, again, the iPad comes up trumps, because I can give this device to literally anybody who's used a computer or not used a computer before, and they instantly know how to use it. I can give it to my aunt, I can give it to my mum, I can give it to my grandparents, I can give it to a child, and they all know how to use it, because it's insanely easy to use. It's all done by the finger, and it's just literally insanely easy to use. Icons are all, you know, laid out in a really nice way. There's nothing complicated about it. The only thing you might have to worry about in terms of training might be how to use specific software and apps. If you're through the App Store and you've got some specific software or application that you use for whatever it is, then you might have to do a bit of training for that. But most things are just easy on the iPad, and you know that, which is fantastic, because it means you as a technologist, as an IT support guru, don't then have to provide as much support for these devices as, say, something like a Windows device or an Android device. So okay, we tried ease of use. What about features then? Because obviously features are a big thing. Obviously the iPad 3 has just come out, just been announced, but in terms of business, you may as well get away with, you could quite as easily get away with the iPad 2, because in terms of performance is fine, screen is fine. For what you're going to be using it for in a business environment, you don't really need the iPad 3. You can get away with saving a bit of money and going the iPad 2 route. Obviously you're going to say the same OS on it, it's not going to be too slow, so you may as well just stick with the iPad 2, to be honest. So you know, in terms of features, and in terms of iOS features, in terms of actual physical system features, iPad is very limited in terms of its featureness. I.e., you can't do very much on it. You can't route things. You can't play, like with Android. You can play around with things to the hilt. You've got stuff like USB ports, SD card ports. You can put LAN ports in there if you wanted to. Things like this. Whereas on the Apple tablet, there is literally a headphone jack and their proprietary connector at the bottom. That's it. Obviously you can get kits for pushing out to monitors and things like that, but you know, in terms of actual features and specs, it's not that great. You know, if you're a network admin, for instance, I mean, I use this all the time as not as an admin, because I'm not officially an admin, as an IT support professional. I'm going to say, I can get away with saying that. As an IT professional, I use this because it's insanely light. I can take it around with me. I can check emails, I can check the web, and things like that. I could even remote onto servers if I wanted to through VPN, and not through VPN, through remote access, through stuff like LogMeIn or VMware's suite of apps, because we use VMware at work anyway. But so you know, in terms of in terms of that, that's fine. But in terms of, if you're a network admin and you want to be able to SSH and stuff, you can't do that on the iPad. If you wanted to put a custom ROM on things, you can't do that with the iPad. And there's all these other bits and pieces. If there's an extra app that you can't get through the App Store, you can't do that on the iPad. You have to do that through, you can only do that through Android. So it's a bit limited in terms of what you can actually do. But in terms of support, that makes it insanely easy to support because it means people can fiddle around with it and mess with it. And with Mac OS server, you can lock it down and increase security or put security bits on there as you normally would on any machine that you deploy at your place of work. So what about Android tablets then? Similar sort of thing. There's many ways of doing it. I mean, not in terms of Mac OS server, you'd have to use third-party things. I don't believe there's anything that embeds. There probably is a few things that embed, but they're probably third-party that embed with Windows Server and probably allow you to do some funky stuff there, or maybe Linux-based that you can then play around with managing Android tablets and smartphones and things like that. With Windows 8 coming out, it's a really good opportunity to use that as your tablet OS really, because it goes really well with, because it embeds with Windows Server, and because you as a technologist know about Windows Server, Active Directory, OUs and things like that, it makes managing it a hell of a lot easier. I haven't played with Windows 8 Server just yet. I've not heard good things. I've heard that it's not that great. I haven't played with it, so I don't actually know. Windows 8, on the other hand, is pretty damn good. The Metro UI is really designed for tablets, and the fact that it's still Windows, and the fact you can still, essentially put any application on it that's designed for Windows is fantastic. So that then means that you can then manage it also, because it's Windows Server. You can then manage it through things like through Windows Server, like you would anything like a desktop or a laptop or anything like that. So which is fantastic, and as an admin that makes it so much easier because you've already probably got Windows Server running, your Active Directory and all these other bits and pieces, so then you can use that within the institution to roll out your tablets and your with Windows 8. But I would test it. The consumer preview is out. If you've got a tablet that you can chuck it on, I would chuck it on it and play around with it, and get a Windows 8 beta going, have a closed network, obviously a test lab, getting it set up, and play around with it, because I think that would probably be the best option for businesses in terms of tablets. Although, I mean, the iPad is, for the moment, the iPad is brilliant. It's insanely, it's good. It's a good price, it's good build quality, it's a reasonable spec. The iPad 2, I would definitely say that would probably be fine for business, and there's no point getting iPad 3s unless your managers or something like that insist on getting iPad 3s. The only real difference is, say, the increased camera, better screen, and better processor. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's not anything on the iPad 3 that would say, yes, as a business you really need to get the iPad 3. There isn't. Because you wouldn't photo edit it on the iPad 3, you'd photo edit it on a couple of IPS screens and on some Mac Pro, I suspect. So you wouldn't necessarily need an iPad to do stuff like that. So that's, that's pretty much it really in terms of what tablet to use for your business. I would wait for Windows 8 to come out and look at that as your, if you're thinking about doing it this year, wait for Windows 8 to come out and play around with that and see what you think, because I think Windows 8 will be better for admins to administrate because it's already built in, or it will work with Windows Server, so Windows Active Directory and OUs and things like that, which is fantastic for you as a network admins, because it means you don't have to learn a new interface. We don't have to play around with effing Mac Server. I say effing Mac Server. So Mac Server's good, but it can be a pain in the backside. But no, I mean, it is good. You can managing Macs and managing iPads is brilliant, but in terms of a Windows environment, it's a pain. But there you go. That's just that then, I suppose, really. But yeah, no. Obviously, if you've got any comments or something like that, obviously chuck them down below and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter @AzzyChill. And apart from that, happy computing.